Well, now that we have a drawing set, the next thing, and this is really the responsibility of either the team lead or the person that is responsible for the drawing sheet, they have to set the scale in order to activate the draw commands. And so I'm going to go ahead and set the scale to 1 to 30, and now everyone else can use this same drawing and, of course, work with their content. If I was to go ahead and zoom in to my drawing, the first thing I want to demonstrate in the automatic pricing takeoff is that I can go find an item out of the database, say for example partition. As I look for partition, Gipboard, what you'll notice is automatically coming out of the cost database that the line item description as well as the item number is then added into the takeoff condition. Now, a couple of things to be aware of is, first of all, because of the unit of measure, which is square feet, the assumption or the default is that this may be an area takeoff. And as a partition, we would like to have the area, but we really want to do this in plan as a line. So I'm going to go ahead and change to the line. And then another thing to be aware of, and this is a really good standard operating procedure, is that there are specific properties to this actual takeoff condition, which have things like area, and then they also have variables like length, and then they have height. In order to get area, you have to have both length and height. Now, coming out of the cost database, looking underneath the quantity field, I can use the F of X button and see that my cost database has the quantity formula set to 0, which is a really good starting point because we would want the users to actually make sure that they're keying in or taking off the value that is appropriate as opposed to some starting value. On the fly, I'm going to go ahead and introduce two variables. This could always be embedded back in Data Manager. I'm going to go length times height, and I can click on any other cell just to verify that I have legitimate variables in play. When I select OK, a new window appears, and it says what is length and then what is height. Now, as I open up the takeoff view, what you'll notice is with automatic pricing turned on and the gypsum board takeoff value ready to go, I am actually able to start drawing, and that's what the green crosshair represents. So if I was to go ahead and just click on a partition and then close, you'll notice that immediately a line item has been added to my estimate. But where is the quantity? Well, the quantity is 0 at the moment, and that's because we only have one of the two variable values set, and that is the length coming in from the line segment that I drew. A good standard operating procedure would be to go to the Properties tab and then say, for example, set the height of our partition. So if I set 10 feet to the height here, also it would be very helpful to go ahead and add, say, a little bit of documentation, say, for example, 10 feet high here as well as the takeoff condition. Now, this does not change the description of the line item, and that is a good thing in many cases. Now, that update occurred automatically, and I want to point that out by going over to the filter view. You may already have this configured in your template. I'm going to go ahead to the gear, and I would like to take component name from the left-hand side, move it to the right, and then also elevate it up to the first position node of the folder. And when I select OK, then you can see that I have a drywall partition that is 10 feet high. And this becomes really valuable, especially if there are different heights of wall partition. Maybe you have different slab thicknesses, things that are helpful for other users to be able to see exactly what has been taken off and what are these values, these complementary values that are not parametric. Now, back over in the takeoff, once one line segment has been drawn, then you could see the item in the takeoff palette. And of course, you can always continue drawing from the takeoff palette. But I'd also like to give you a shortcut here that, especially with dual monitors, if you have them split, you could always go to the row header. The row header is this box that I'm hovering over right now where my cursor is at, and you can right mouse button click and select Sketch Item, which is Control D. Getting used to this, if you are used to keyboard accelerators, you can always just click on the specific item and then Control D, and it'll immediately start sketching for you. So I can sketch more of the same partition. And so it's continuing to accumulate our quantity. Now, going back to the cost database, if I reset the sieve, the cost information view, what we can see is the line item will come back out of the cost database with its initial values set again. So let's say, for example, I want this to be a line. I also maybe want to have the height of this to be 12 feet. Good standard operating procedures would be to say that this is going to be a 12-foot high wall. And then the final piece that I did in a little bit of a different order is length times height. And then validate that that formula is correct. When I say OK, our variables window appears and length and height are here. And because these are keywords in the takeoff properties, length and height will automatically populate on the fly. One other thing that I didn't do the first time, but I will do it this time, is to also set the WBS properties. This is the sticky WBS properties. I would like to go ahead and assign this to the tower. Now that I have done that, I can go ahead over to my takeoff condition, and let's just say that this demising wall right through here around the corridor is 12 feet high. Now, what we can see is, as I've added that one in, it disappeared, and that's because I was isolated in the filter view on the 10-foot high wall. As I go to all items in my filter view, I can now see both of them. I see the original 10-foot high here, and of course I could see those two. I could also go to the 12-foot high. Now I can see that single one that I drew here as well. See them together, and of course we have two line items that are exactly the same as far as descriptions, item numbers, and cost. One other piece on the row header is that you can right mouse button click, and you can always select to toggle the roll up. If all column headers, and these are all column headers, if column headers that are out and displayed share a common trait, then you will get the roll up and you'll see the double pieces of paper. This is the same thing that you would see in an output report, say from the standard reports that technology provides.